What if I told you that something sitting in your kitchen right now, something you were encouraged to eat for years, may be quietly damaging your nerves and increasing your risk of neuropathy after 60? Not a toxin, not a medication, not sugar in the way most people think about it, but a familiar, everyday nut that feels harmless, even healthy. I'm speaking as a neurologist who has spent decades listening to older adults describe the same fears in different words: burning feet at night, numb toes that don't quite feel the floor, a growing unease about balance, and the quiet worry that something irreversible may be happening while they sleep. What troubles me most is how often these symptoms are dismissed as just aging, while the real drivers remain hidden in plain sight. This isn't about blame or panic. It's about understanding how certain nuts, eaten the wrong way and too often, can accelerate nerve damage in aging bodies. Once you see how this happens, you'll never look at these foods or your nerve symptoms the same way again. Before we dive in, if you haven't subscribed yet, I recommend you hit that button and turn on the bell so you never miss another health tip made just for you. If you enjoy this video, type 1 in the comments. If not, type 0 to let me know how I can make better content for you. 1. Roasted salted peanuts. When a simple snack becomes a slow nerve toxin after 60. It usually starts in the most innocent way: a small bowl of peanuts while watching the evening news, a handful from a jar on the kitchen counter, something crunchy, familiar, and comforting, especially when you've been told for years that peanuts are better than chips. But here's what many adults over 60 are never warned about. Roasted salted peanuts can quietly stress and damage aging nerves when eaten the way most Americans eat them. Peanuts are not tree nuts. Biologically, they are legumes, and that distinction matters more as we age. In older adults, peanuts behave very differently in the body than almonds or walnuts. When roasted and salted, they digest quickly, raise blood sugar faster than expected, and trigger insulin responses that aging nerves simply don't tolerate well anymore. After 60, nerve tissue becomes far less resilient. The tiny blood vessels that nourish nerves, especially those traveling to the feet and hands, are extremely sensitive to repeated sugar exposure. You don't need diabetes for this damage to occur. You only need frequent, modest spikes that happen day after day, year after year. That's exactly what peanuts create when they're eaten alone. Many seniors don't recognize peanuts as a blood sugar issue because they don't taste sweet. But the body doesn't care about taste. It responds to how fast food turns into glucose. Roasted peanuts, particularly dry roasted commercial versions, do this surprisingly well. Add salt, and it becomes even easier to overeat without realizing how much metabolic stress you're creating. There's another problem that often goes unnoticed. Most roasted peanuts in the US are processed with inflammatory seed oils and exposed to high heat. This combination promotes oxidative stress, a process that directly irritates nerve fibers and weakens their protective coating over time. For someone already experiencing tingling, numbness, or burning sensations, this acts like gasoline on a smoldering fire. I've seen many older patients insist they don't snack much, only to realize peanuts are their default filler between meals. A few here, a few there. No recovery window, no chance for nerves to calm down. This doesn't mean peanuts must be eliminated forever. But after 60, they should never be eaten mindlessly, alone, or in large quantities. When paired with adequate protein, eaten with a meal, and consumed occasionally rather than daily, their impact changes dramatically. Neuropathy rarely comes from one dramatic mistake. It grows from small, repeated choices that seem harmless at the time. And peanuts are one of the most common examples I see in American seniors who are doing their best, yet still watching their nerve symptoms slowly worsen. Now, here's the question that matters even more. If something as ordinary as a peanut can quietly harm aging nerves, what happens when other healthy nuts are eaten the same way? The next one surprises almost everyone, and it may explain why your symptoms refuse to calm down. If you're still watching and finding these insights helpful, please comment number 1 below to let me know you're with me. Now let's move on to point number 2. 2. Cashews, the sweet tasting nut that acts like sugar on aging nerves. Many of my patients are genuinely confused when their nerve symptoms keep worsening despite eating clean. They've cut desserts, avoid soda, and stay away from candy. And yet, the tingling in their feet creeps upward, the burning at night intensifies, and their balance feels less reliable. When we look closely, one food shows up again and again: cashews. Cashews don't look dangerous. They're soft, easy to chew, and often recommended to older adults because they're gentle on the stomach. But that smooth texture is part of the problem. Cashews contain significantly more carbohydrates than most nuts and far less fiber to slow digestion. For someone over 60, that combination matters more than nutrition labels suggest. As we age, the body becomes less efficient at handling glucose. Insulin responses are slower, muscle uptake is reduced, and excess sugar stays in the bloodstream longer. When cashews are eaten alone, as a snack from a bowl or straight out of a container, they behave less like a fat-based food and more like a quick sugar source. The rise isn't dramatic enough to feel, but it's enough to irritate nerve tissue repeatedly. This is especially relevant for seniors with prediabetes, metabolic syndrome, or borderline blood sugar levels. These individuals are often told they're doing fine and don't need to worry. Meanwhile, their nerves are quietly absorbing the damage. Long peripheral nerves, particularly those supplying the feet, are extremely sensitive to these small but frequent spikes. Over time, signaling becomes distorted, sensation dulls, pain signals misfire. Another issue with cashews is portion creep. Because they're mild and creamy, people rarely stop at a few. A handful turns into several. Unlike almonds or walnuts, cashews don't create the same feeling of fullness, so the body doesn't send a clear stop signal. What feels like a modest snack can deliver a metabolic load the nervous system struggles to tolerate. I often remind seniors that neuropathy doesn't usually begin with pain. It begins with tolerance slowly disappearing. What the body handled at 50 becomes harmful at 65. Foods don't change, physiology does. Cashews aren't forbidden, but after 60, they should be treated with caution. Eating them with protein, limiting portions, and avoiding daily use can significantly reduce their impact. The goal isn't restriction, it's protection. If you've noticed that your nerve symptoms worsen in the afternoon or evening, it's worth asking what you're reaching for between meals. Sometimes the problem isn't what you're missing, it's what's quietly acting like sugar when no one warned you. And if a nut that tastes this harmless can stress aging nerves so effectively, wait until you hear about the next one, because it's hiding in plain sight on kitchen counters all across America. 3. Mixed nuts, when a little of everything quietly overloads aging nerves. It doesn't feel like a bad habit. A bowl of mixed nuts on the coffee table, a scoop from a large container bought at Costco, something you reach for without thinking because you've been told for decades that nuts are one of the healthiest snacks you can eat. And in many ways, that's true until age changes the rules. After 60, the issue with mixed nuts isn't any single nut inside the blend. It's how easily they turn into constant exposure, something aging nerves are far less able to handle. Most seniors don't sit down and decide to overeat mixed nuts. They graze. A few now, a few later, again before dinner, again in the evening. The body never gets a break. Nerves depend on stable internal conditions. They don't tolerate repeated metabolic stress well, especially when it comes from small, frequent rises in blood sugar and insulin. Mixed nuts create exactly that scenario. Different nuts digest at different speeds. Some are higher in carbohydrates, some lower in fiber, some salted, some roasted in inflammatory oils. When they're all combined and eaten continuously, the nervous system is exposed to ongoing low-grade irritation. This matters because aging nerves heal slowly. They rely on calm, consistent blood flow and predictable chemistry. Constant snacking keeps insulin elevated throughout the day, which interferes with nerve repair processes. It also increases systemic inflammation, making nerve fibers more sensitive and reactive. That's when tingling becomes persistent, numbness spreads, and burning sensations appear without an obvious trigger. There's also a mineral issue many people overlook. Nuts are rich in certain minerals, but heavy repetitive intake without balance can disrupt others. Over time, this imbalance can affect nerve signaling and muscle control, contributing to cramping, weakness, and unsteady gait. Symptoms many seniors assume are just age. Another concern is portion blindness. Mixed nuts are designed to be palatable. They don't create a strong satiety signal, especially when eaten outside of meals. What feels like a small amount often adds up to several hundred calories and a metabolic load that quietly strains nerve tissue. I often tell older patients that neuropathy isn't caused by one dramatic choice. It's caused by never giving the nervous system a chance to reset. Mixed nuts, eaten all day, remove that reset entirely. This doesn't mean mixed nuts must disappear from your life. It means they need boundaries. Eating them with meals instead of between them, limiting portions, and avoiding all-day grazing can significantly reduce their impact. For many seniors, simply moving nuts out of arm's reach and into structured meals makes a noticeable difference in nerve symptoms. If your feet feel worse at night or your balance feels off by afternoon, it's worth asking how often your nervous system is being asked to process just a few more. Because once you understand how mixed nuts quietly overwhelm aging nerves, the next food on this list may completely change how you snack. And it's far more deceptive than most people expect. If you're still watching and finding these insights valuable, please comment number 1 below to let me know you're here. Now let's keep going with point number 4. 4. Flavored almonds. When a heart-healthy label masks nerve-irritating additives. At first glance, it feels like you're doing everything right. You chose almonds instead of cookies. You picked the bag that says heart healthy. Maybe they're honey roasted, cinnamon dusted, or lightly seasoned. Nothing extreme, nothing that feels like junk food. And yet, for many adults over 60, flavored almonds quietly aggravate nerve symptoms in ways plain almonds never do. The problem isn't the almond itself. Almonds, in their natural form, are generally well tolerated by aging bodies. The issue begins with what's added to make them more enjoyable. Flavoring almost always means sugar, starches, artificial flavor enhancers, or processed oils. substances that behave very differently in the nervous system than whole foods do. For seniors, even small amounts of added sugar can increase oxidative stress. That stress damages the delicate outer coating of nerves, making them more sensitive and prone to misfiring. This is why some people notice burning or electric sensations that don't seem proportional to their activity level. The nerves aren't being injured in one dramatic moment, they're being irritated repeatedly. Many flavored almonds are also roasted at high temperatures using refined seed oils. These oils promote inflammation throughout the body, including in the tiny blood vessels that supply nerves. Reduced blood flow means less oxygen and fewer nutrients reach nerve tissue, slowing repair and worsening symptoms over time. For someone already dealing with tingling or numbness, this creates a cycle that's difficult to break. Another overlooked issue is how flavored almonds affect eating behavior. Sweet or savory coatings override the body's natural satiety signals. People don't stop when they've had enough. They stop when the bag is empty or when someone reminds them. That makes portion control nearly impossible, especially when snacking is used for comfort or routine rather than hunger. I've had older patients tell me their nerve pain flares for no reason, only to discover that a flavored nut snack had quietly become a daily habit. Once they switched back to plain almonds, eaten with meals rather than alone, many noticed less nighttime burning and fewer sharp sensations within weeks. Not because almonds are medicine, but because the irritants were removed. This isn't about perfection. It's about recognizing that after 60, labels don't protect nerves, ingredients do. Foods marketed for heart health are not automatically safe for nerve health, especially when additives enter the picture. If you rely on flavored almonds for convenience or comfort, it may be worth asking whether your nerves feel calmer on days you skip them. Because if something this subtle can amplify nerve irritation, the next item on the list is even more misleading. And it's one that many seniors consume believing it's the safest choice of all. 5. Packaged trail mix. The convenience food that quietly accelerates nerve damage after 60. It's often chosen with the best intentions. Something easy to grab, something that doesn't feel processed, a food you were told is natural, balanced, and even good for energy. For many Americans over 60, packaged trail mix feels like the safest option when hunger hits between meals. Unfortunately, for aging nerves, it's often one of the most damaging. Trail mix wasn't designed for seniors. It was created for hikers, endurance athletes, and people burning large amounts of glucose over long periods of physical activity. After 60, metabolism changes dramatically. Muscles don't absorb sugar as efficiently, insulin lingers longer in the bloodstream, and nerves become far more sensitive to repeated glucose exposure. Trail mix delivers the exact opposite of what aging nerves need. The biggest issue is the combination. Nuts by themselves digest slowly. Dried fruit by itself is concentrated sugar. When the two are combined, especially in the ratios used in most commercial trail mixes, the sugar hits fast while the fat delays fullness. This encourages overeating while still creating sharp blood sugar spikes. Even small portions can provoke a metabolic response that quietly irritates nerve tissue. Many seniors don't realize how much sugar dried fruit contains because it's labeled as natural. Raisins, cranberries, pineapple, mango, once dried, become dense glucose sources with almost no water and little fiber to slow absorption. Add yogurt coatings, chocolate pieces, or sweetened nuts, and the nerve impact becomes even stronger. Another problem is timing. Trail mix is almost always eaten alone. In the car, while watching television, while reading. Eating sugar without protein or a full meal context forces nerves to absorb the metabolic shock directly. Over time, this repeated exposure damages the small blood vessels that feed peripheral nerves, especially in the feet. That's when numbness spreads, burning intensifies at night, and balance becomes unreliable. There's also the illusion of control. Trail mix is sold in large bags, and portions are rarely measured. A few bites become a cup becomes a habit, and because it doesn't cause an immediate crash, the connection to nerve symptoms is missed entirely. I've worked with many older patients who insisted they eat healthy snacks, yet their neuropathy progressed steadily. Removing trail mix alone, without changing anything else, often reduced nighttime burning and improved steadiness within weeks. Not because trail mix is poison in isolation, but because aging nerves can no longer tolerate repeated sugar assaults disguised as nutrition. This isn't about fear or restriction. It's about understanding that convenience foods are designed for younger physiology. After 60, the rules change, whether anyone tells you or not. And now that you've seen how everyday nut choices quietly influence nerve health, the final question becomes unavoidable. If these foods are slowly shaping your symptoms, what happens when you step back and look at the pattern as a whole? That's where everything finally comes together and where real control begins. Protecting your nerves means protecting your future after 60. As we grow older, the body becomes quieter in how it warns us. Pain is no longer loud at first. Damage doesn't announce itself. It accumulates slowly, often while we're doing things we believe are harmless, routine, or even healthy. Neuropathy is one of the clearest examples of this reality. It rarely begins with severe pain. It begins with small changes, tingling at night, numb toes, a subtle loss of balance, signals many seniors are taught to ignore. The deeper message of everything you've just read is not about nuts, snacks, or food rules. It's about fragility. After 60, the nervous system is far less forgiving. What your body tolerated in midlife can quietly become harmful later on. Nerves regenerate slowly, if at all, and once damage reaches a certain point, recovery becomes limited. That's why timing matters more than perfection. Nighttime is when this vulnerability shows itself most clearly. Burning feet, pins and needles sensations, sudden electric pain. These symptoms often worsen when the body is at rest because irritated nerves finally speak up. Sleep becomes fragmented. Balance suffers the next day. Fatigue increases. Over time, this cycle raises the risk of falls, loss of independence, and fear of movement. None of this happens overnight, but it compounds faster than most people expect. The most empowering truth for older adults is this: many forms of nerve damage are not inevitable, but they are cumulative. Understanding what stresses nerves and removing those stressors can slow or even halt progression. This isn't about chasing cures or reversing the past. It's about protecting what remains. Looking ahead 1 to 5 years, the choices you make now will shape how steady you feel on your feet, how confidently you move through your home, and how safely you navigate daily life. Small adjustments made today often determine whether neuropathy stays mild or becomes disabling. Seniors who act early often preserve mobility, sleep better, and maintain independence far longer than those who wait. Healthy aging isn't passive, it requires awareness, thoughtful adjustment, and a willingness to question long held habits. The goal is not restriction, but alignment, aligning daily choices with the realities of an aging nervous system. Your body is not betraying you, it's communicating more subtly than it used to. When you listen early, respond wisely, and protect yourself proactively, you give your future self something invaluable: stability, confidence, and control over the years ahead. These lessons are meant to inspire you to live fully and authentically. Now, I'd love to hear from you. Take a moment to reflect and share one thing you've learned and plan to apply in your own life. Let's support each other on this journey toward embracing these truths. If you enjoyed this video, please leave a comment with 1. If not, feel free to comment with 0. Your feedback means a lot to us. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to our YouTube channel for more content like this. Thank you for watching, and here's to living life on your own terms.